What's up, Predator fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast back with another action figure review. This time I'll be looking at the Hot Toys AVP 1/6 scale MMS325 figure of the Elder Predator. Let's have a quick look at the packaging. It says AVP on the top as well as the bottom. As you can see, this box is not in great condition, and I think the post office may have roughed it up even more. It says Elder Predator on the side, and the same thing here on the opposite side. The back of the packaging features some artwork of the Elder Predators, biomask, and combi staff. We're treated to some nice product shots on the front, and of course it says Elder Predator, and there is this spot gloss finish that says Alien versus Predator. Let me see if I can get a better view of that here. As you can see, the light reveals that Alien versus Predator. And now let's bust open this box and see what's inside. And here we see the Elder Predator out of the box and ready to rumble. As you might expect, the details on this figure are magnificent. However, there are some issues with fragility. So let's take a closer look at the loose details now. Let's have a look at the accessories that come with this figure. And we get 3 pairs of blades. The shortest pair is already in his forearm gauntlet. And then we get these 2 medium-sized ones. These are actual metal. They're not really sharp, but they're sharp enough to do damage. So certainly don't get these near your face. And then we have the fully extended ones, and these look very menacing. You can see just how long these are. Those look really cool. You can see the light dancing off of these. Very realistic looking. Then we get the basic cradle stand here, and it says AVP in blue lettering and Elder Predator. And again, this is a 2016 release. And then we get the biomask, and the detail on this is outstanding. Now, I know some people don't like the fact that you can't put this on the head sculpt, but I'm okay with it just because the level of detail is so amazing. Look at how realistic the lenses look. And of course, this is very ornate, indicative of an older Yautja who has decorated his biomask. That's very impressive. And I'll continue looking at the accessories here. And I did have the lid off of this earlier because I detected a problem, and unfortunately it turned out to be true. But first I'll talk about the alternate hands here. And of course these just go on the wrist pegs. And these are open palm hands. And we get a gripping hand. Again, all of these are very well produced. Definitely not pliable though, so be careful with putting too much pressure on the fingers. So I do like having all these options. And next we come to the scabbard for the ceremonial dagger. There's plenty of detail on this. And I think they just call this a sword on the box, but it actually is the ceremonial dagger. We saw Scar use one like this in AVP. And again, this is real metal. And then we come to the problem here, and that is the combi staff. And as soon as I lifted this out, I felt like something was wrong, but I want to show you this nonetheless. This end, unfortunately, it broke off in shipping. And originally I looked at this and I thought it was something that may be removable, but that is not the case. And although I think that the post office was overly rough with the package, this is a very small area, and I can see where it wouldn't take very much for a small part like this to snap off. And this is why I always encourage caution in my videos, especially with premium figures. So ultimately, I'll have to get another combi staff for this figure. Let's have a closer look at the lower body. And I'm very impressed by these feet. They are screen accurate. You can see the texturing on the feet. The armor on the calf muscles is very well sculpted. You can see that it looks like segmented pieces of metal that have been fused together. And now let's have a look at the quadriceps. The musculature is accurate. These are just huge legs. And you can see all of the detail here on the armored piece that goes around the hip area. The mesh is soft goods. Those are not sculpted onto the legs, so be careful with that as well. But the detail here is just outstanding. Above the knees, the armor pieces are held together by this pleather material. And I don't think that with this figure, it has the same reputation of deterioration of that material in the way that other Hot Toys Predator figures do. And now I'll move this cape out of the way to give you a better view of the back of the legs. Hot Toys really missed no details with this figure. This is very screen accurate, and again, that superb sculpting on the armor pieces continues all the way around the hips. The scabbard ports into the side of the lower leg armor, and the ceremonial dagger fits securely into the scabbard. Let's have a look at the torso now. And you can see the abdominal sculpted even through the netting. There's been a dark wash applied to the torso, as well as excellent paint detail to make this look like reptilian skin. The chest armor is a tight fit, and I think that was a wise call by Hot Toys. That's not really something that should be moving around too much. And then we get this trophy necklace with a number of skulls on it, including a partial human skull back here. And you can see this is a separate piece. And here is a look at the back of the armor, including this part here that looks like it's a reinforced area to protect the spinal column. And this all looks magnificent. This gunmetal gray color makes the plastic look like actual metal that could withstand a battle. And look at the texture here. That really looks like metal. Very appreciative of the angular sculpting. Excellent detail, just a fine job by Hot Toys. Now let's look at the forearm gauntlets. And this section flips open to reveal the self-destruct mechanism. It looks like it has been activated. There's very intricate sculpting on this. Now, once again, these hinges are very small, so open and close this with care. And now let's take a closer look at this figure's arms. The hands are attached to this figure via these ball pegs, and here's a closer look at the netting. And of course, these pegs allow you to change out the hands. We can still see the texture of the skin even through the netting. There's wrinkles sculpted into the skin and plenty of paint variation with beige and gray shades. Here's a closer look at the other gauntlet with the double wrist blades, and I'm going to work these out. And here is a closer look at the partially extended blades. And here are the fully extended blades. And I really appreciate the work that went into these. They look very threatening. I'm going to display my figure with these while I search for another combi staff. Now let's look at how some of these extra parts fit on the figure. Here are the open palm hands. Here is the figure with one of the gripping hands holding the ceremonial dagger. And this is a nice snug fit. It doesn't feel like it's going to slip out easily, so I'm thankful for that. And even though the thumb is out on this hand, this is one of the fists. There's plenty of detail here on the fingernails. The coloring remains consistent on all of these hands, and I really like this glossy finish that all of the hands have as well. And if you happen to break one of the wrist pegs as you're changing out the hands, Hot Toys has included this extra set of wrist pegs. And now we come to the all-important head sculpt, and this one is dynamite. There is so much to like here, like these little quills that are sticking out of his head. The attention to detail here is outstanding. And it's somewhat difficult to see because of all of the light that I'm using here, but he does have the mark on his forehead that we saw in AVP. And now I have the figure under extreme light to show you the details here on the pred locks. These are rubber, which I think conveys the idea of these being sensory organs quite well. They move like something that is organic. However, I think that these may become brittle over time. So as you're posing your figure and setting your figure up, I certainly wouldn't do anything that puts stress on these, because that may lead to damaging the head sculpt, and you certainly wouldn't want that. Here is a variety of shots of the head sculpt to allow you to better see all of the details on the head. And the expression that you'll see on this last shot is the stuff that nightmares are made of. And that is exactly what collectors want from a Predator figure. And now a word on the cape. I'm not an expert in the different types of fabric, but this is definitely a high quality fabric. You can see that just from the way that it hangs. The cape is a very vibrant red, and it stands out against all of these earth tones that are used on the figure. It is very attractive. One caveat that I'd like to issue is that due to the length, it's very easy to get this caught under the figure's feet, so be cognizant of that. And now it's time to discuss articulation, and I'd like to be transparent here. I do a lot of reviews of older figures, and I always emphasize safety whenever you're manipulating a figure. So with that perspective in mind, let's take a look at the joints now. The feet move backward and forward at the ankle joint. There's a little resistance from the armor, but you can get them to move from side to side, and there's a minor amount of ankle pivoting. When I articulate the knee, I start to sense resistance right about here. So some collectors may be disappointed with that amount of articulation in the knees. The figure has ratchet joints in its hips, and I can get the leg to kick forward about that much before I feel that it's pressing against the hip armor. And there is some give out to the sides here. This is actually more than I expected. I don't think that's bad at all. And you can also get the figure to step back, and that's always helpful with posing options. The hips do make this snapping sound, and that's due to the ratchet joint. That's just how they work, so don't be worried there if you hear that sound. There's only a minimal amount of articulation in the waist, and I worry about the netting here rubbing against other parts of the armor. And there is no upper torso joint, so there's really no upper torso swiveling. So there's rotation with the hands and back and forth movement. These elbow joints are very tight. Now, perhaps I just got a figure that is especially tight in this area, but I have some problems moving these, and this makes me very anxious. So there's not a great deal of movement here, but there's enough for a couple of decent poses. The shoulder portions of the armor do lift up, and that will allow you to move the arms up from the sides this much. And they also move backward and forward. I definitely would not try to do a 360 with them. It feels like you'll damage the figure that way. But you can lift them up from the sides this much, so that's not bad. And in terms of the head sculpt, you can move the head easily from side to side. That's a very smooth movement. He does tilt his head, and that's always a big positive for me. He can look up that much and look down that much. So overall, I'm very satisfied with the articulation on the head. And as someone who just vanilla poses his figures, I find this level of articulation to be acceptable. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this review, and please tell all of your friends about this channel. I would certainly appreciate it. And I'll be back with more Predator content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.